There are some evil and nefarious things going on when you pull back the curtain of the flat earth cult. This here is Joshua Swift. His channel on YouTube is known as Authentic Intent. He was a speaker at the 2018 Flat Earth International Conference in Denver. This fella right here, Joshua Swift, raped a 14-year-old girl. This fella right here is a convicted rapist. Now, this fella right here gets protection from people like David Weiss, deep inside the rabbit's butthole. He gets protection from people like Bob Nodell from Globebusters. He gets protection from people like Karen B. Also, a Flat Earth Conference speaker. So you have to ask yourself, why do these Flat Earth leaders accept a convicted rapist with open arms? Not only that, why are they victim shaming the 14-year-old girl that he raped? Now, over 2 years ago, Infinite Plane Society, also known as IPS, did an investigation into some of these scumbag pedos, and I wish I had seen this information 2 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of time and trouble. However, I have seen the information now, and it ties directly into my investigation, and it proved exactly what my suspicions were the whole time. So, when you hear IPS's voice, before you tell me he's a shill, IPS agrees with me that Mac Parhar, Flat Earth Fokker, is not dead. IPS agrees with me that Rob Skiba is not dead. IPS agrees with me that the Flat Earth looks to be a cult, and also he agrees with me that there are convicted pedos running amok and being protected by the Flat Earth cult leaders. So when you hear IPS's voice, don't be alarmed. He's actually telling quite a bit of truth in this video. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
So Authentic Intent is dealing with what he calls the rumors.
Really what this is about, I want to make sure that all of the rumors that have been going on about, what's been going on with me is cleared up, and that the truth can come out, and then it will squash all of these rumors. So
Now, by rumors, he actually means facts.
IPS, who is one of the main contributors to spreading these rumors, asks about my probation officer.
I asked about his probation officer, assuming he had one, because he hadn't yet come clean. And I said, does your probation officer know that you're doing activism in front of teens? And that's not a rumor. That's me just asking, if as a sex offender, he's got a parole officer. And I assumed he had one because the crime that this particular crime was committed in 2016. And there's no way that somebody who had done all of that is still on the streets, unless he's got some type of an arrangement. So here's where we see a lot of the victim shaming, and the comments speak volumes, and the people who show up in the comment section, people like Ace McLeod, never trust a female, I guess it's a lesson in life. She's looking for that sweet settlement payoff. So yes, we have Ace McLeod. So we're talking about someone who's intimately connected to Globebusters, definitely behind the PURVE. Joking, I guess, saying never trust a female, or she was in it for the money. We're talking about a little abused girl here. One Neo says, well, at least it didn't destroy your character. And here's where it starts. Here's where the commenters begin pointing their fingers at the Infinite Plane Society for pointing this out when they're not busy blaming the 14-year-old girl. And To me, this looks like an angry mob, and they're all Christian flat earthers throwing stones. Virginia Dare says, high schools are full of girls who will do anything for anything. Again, this has become almost surreal, but this was a highly curated chat room, and this is the reason why Troll versus Troll re-uploaded it. They re-uploaded it because the original one was so curated, you couldn't see what people actually thought. Ace McLeod offers his helpful advice here. The only way out of stuff these days is an expensive lawyer. Now, I'm bringing this up again just to show you all who's behind this behavior, who's behind authentic intent and these excuses and the scapegoating. And really, this is scapegoating. They're trying to cast the blame on not just the IPS, but on the victim. So Globebusters here says, IPS is a flat earth troll. He thinks he's the guardian of flat earth and his subscribers are morons. Then down here, and again, this is Globebusters, Bob Nodal says, IPS is a Mason and a dark, dark individual. So again, I'm somehow the topic of this conversation. Jake Linden says, IPS is a satanic witch. This is crazy, right? You guys all understand this is literally insane people. They're in some type of a frenzy. Here's Bob saying, Infinite Plane Society subscribers are mostly criminals, hookers, and drug dealers. He has a cult. It's a Masonic cult, says intentionally spaced out. Again, my point here is that the people who are behind authentic intent are very much against us. And this is nothing more than shooting the messenger. That's all they're doing, is they're shooting the messenger. Truth Sharing Mirror says, the Infinite Plane Society has insulted me and made threats. Therefore, take it for what it's worth. So they're trying to suggest that anything that I bring forward shouldn't really be taken seriously because of our reputation here. Blaze is another one who's behind the PURVE. He says, Infinite Plane Society is a fascist. Call him that. Way, he's basically asking her, as a mother, wouldn't you protect your kids from guys like me? And listen to her response.
Again and again.
No, never in a million years. Never. But I monitor my children very closely. You know, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I look at what they're doing and what they're looking at, and, you know, I keep a close eye on that stuff because that's my job. You know.
Right. That's what a parent does.
Okay, now here's where he makes this distinction, saying that he's not a pedophile because she wasn't young enough to qualify, which I think is a distinction without a difference.
And they judge by the facts. People in the chat, however, see the facts, and they're mainstream. They just focus on the one thing, you know, pedophile.
Yeah.
And a 14-year-old is not a prepubescent child. So there is a clear distinction between a 14 and 15-year-old that's ovulating and can bear children to a child that is prepubescent.
A 14-year-old is not a prepubescent child. So there is a clear distinction between a 14 and 15-year-old that's ovulating and can bear children to a child that is prepubescent.
And that's not me. That has never been me. I have never pursued any ideas or any thoughts like that.
Here are a couple of direct quotes regarding this minor. I had messaged Authentic Intent directly, and I said, you're blaming the victim. I guess Epstein's innocent too, since his victims went to his home willingly. And I said to Karen B., you're a mother. you blame society for sexualizing kids, and you blame the girl who was previously abused, which she did. In order to help deflect the blame away from authentic intent, she brought up how society is sexualizing kids. Authentic responded to me, "Why are you bringing up Epstein? Stay on topic." And he sent me an article about the sexualization of America, which again, that would not exonerate him. Now, Karen B wrote me a hostile message saying, "I never blamed the girl. Don't put words in my mouth." She absolutely did, time and again. Those of you who watch the Damage Control know. And she said, "No one likes you." Which, again, ad hominem, who cares? It's just a way to try to deflect discussion by attacking the messenger. Authentic intent, though, says she was not a child. A child does not know what they're doing. She was doing this intentionally. So, authentic intent is pretty comfortable designating his victim as an adult. Does that mean he could buy her cigarettes and booze? Does that mean she could get a credit card? They have very little understanding of what consent means, and they have trouble understanding that minors cannot, by definition, consent. Okay, so this video is pretty damning for a few reasons. Specifically, it's this. You have an hour and a half of victim shaming in the chat and on the video itself between these two as they dialogue back and forth. And it's not even a real interview. He handed her the questions. The lady to Authentic's right, here on the left side of the screen, she's the one who was messaging with me on Facebook. And I said, we will go away and stop making a deal about it when he makes a public confession. So this video was actually a response to me and to what we had said. And then here is Globebusters in the comments again. Authentic intent, I just want to say I have an enormous amount of respect for you. And this year, I promise to watch your presentation. Now, by that, he's referring to Flattoberfest. So Flattoberfest.com is going to have to deal with this, because when you go to the speakers, you have a number of individuals who are in their late 40s and 50s, and then you have one of Authentic, who's the only one who would appeal to the younger demographics. So he may connect with the youth, and it's an all-age event. The reason that's a problem is that by his own admission and by the police reports and the court documents, he reached his victim through electronic communication. So you do not want your kids to be emailing or subscribing to this individual. But he's been given access, and you're welcome to send him a comment, which I may just do at some of the time. But my point is this. It puts people in touch. It puts them in the path of danger. This is a live stream after everything else, so he's already cleared the air. Now he feels safe just going right back out there and mixing with the public who aren't aware of his status. And you can see the people who are still in support of him. Dave, Steve Putland, intentionally spaced out, Globebusters. Okay, September 21st, Authentic Intent is out on the streets and he's interacting with these 3 minors.
All right, y'all. Things are about to get really real, really fast, and this is really serious. This is not a joke. This is not about clicks or views or money. This is serious. What I'm about to tell you may save your life. Do not, under any circumstances, go out on the streets and do any quote-unquote flat smacking. It is a terrible idea. I've done it and gotten away with it, but times have changed and people like this have absolutely ruined the idea. So do not go out on the streets and start yelling at people and berating people, screaming at people with a bullhorn that the earth is flat. If you do that, the chances of you getting punched, kicked, having your personal property destroyed, it goes up exponentially. Please do not, under any circumstance, do any flat smacking. And if you are, you better damn sure make sure it is not any children who you are flat smacking. And let me show you why.
Authentic Intent is out on the streets and he's interacting with these 3 minors. They're obviously minors. I don't need to check their IDs to know. And I'm looking in the comments, and this commenter, name spelled AOEULHS, who was very much in praise of Authentic and attacking me in their Clearing the Air video, says, "Cutie on the left." John Garner. In fact, let's look at these accounts since they're all behind the PURVE. John Garner says, "Girl on the left, very, very, very pretty." Lone Ranger 777 says, "All 3 are cuties." John Garner says, "Get her number, Josh." Yeah, Josh, a convicted pedophile on parole needs to get the number of a minor. John Garner says, "Prison stripes kind of young. Maybe she's telling you something." John Garner says again, "Very pretty." So let's take a look at who John Garner is. We're looking at people who are behind the PURVE, and these are people behind the PURVE. So this is John Garner. John Garner was there taking Authentic Intent's side against the victim.
Put the bass and the drums on a looper.
So this old guy is hitting on these teenagers, telling Joshua Swift, the convicted pedophile on parole, to get their numbers.
I'm just going to play the guitar to it like this, Powerland style. Yeah, I heard this tune called
Powerland style. Okay, the next one who's behind the PURVE is this guy. This is the other guy who was in there saying all 3 of those little girls are cute. And as you can see here, he is a fan of Authentic Intent, likes all of Authentic's videos. And if you can just look at his face. This is Lone Ranger 777, who's right now watching Authentic Intent talk to young ladies and asking for their numbers. Here is the other individual. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Doesn't have any content of his own. He's also very much into those young girls. So let's go back to Authentic Intent.
I don't either. So if I were to leave Minnesota, go to LAX to go international, most likely, like I went to Thailand in 2015.
Yeah, he went to Thailand in 2015. So Lone Ranger 777, this guy up here licking his computer screen or his camera. You can actually see him licking his camera. He says, "Yep, they're pretty, pretty, and pretty." So these guys are here for eye candy. And many have suggested that Swift is here to flirt.
I had to fly from LAX to Tokyo to Bangkok, Thailand. And let's say that I had enough money, I would have to take a commercial airliner because I don't have my own private jet either. I would have to go here, to here, to here, to here, and then back to the United States. So all you're doing really is just circumnavigating around your neighborhood. It's no different than taking a couple of right turns and then ending up back here. So why would you just...
Again, he's talking to minors. He hasn't disclosed his status. They might be in touch. Look, he could be putting himself in touch with them. Email me later. Lottie says stay away from those young girls. Finally.
hypothetical. Why would you want to venture out here? There's no
But watch what will happen. Most likely, Bob from Glowbusters or Authentic will ban Lottie for saying that.
Best Buys out here. You know, your friends aren't out here. Is your house, like, way out here?
He's asking where they live.
Right, so if there is an edge, regardless, you couldn't come to it anyways. And I'm going to...
Again, I just turned this on random. This is live right now. And look, Lottie's message was deleted. Lottie said, stop messing with the young girls. He gets deleted. Lone Ranger and Josh Garner get to talk about how much they like the way these young girls look. Josh Garner says, oh, one gave Josh her number? Did I miss something? I mean, come on.
Round, then I went from here like that instead of like that.
So can you tell me where you went?
So I don't remember, but I remember I was like around here, and to get to
the South
Asia, yes.
To Asia, okay.
To Asia, I was here, and I went this way, not.
Well, you did this. You just crossed this right here. That's all you did.
No, I went this way.
No, you didn't, though. I know that there's an image on the screen in front of you when you're flying. That's what you're doing. But do cartoons make things real?
So why? So we don't.
I'm just asking. Can I?
Yeah,
hold on. You haven't.
All right. So here you have just another example of authentic intent, so-called activism. Meanwhile, the people looking in the chat are more interested in checking out the girls. Of all the things to protect, they should have just let it go and said, okay, well, this is bad PR. Because normally they're hyper concerned about PR. Don't you remember Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole put out a video saying, don't pay attention to Mad Mike Hughes. That's bad PR for Flat Earth. Do you remember how much of an effort he made to stifle that? Because they're so concerned about how the public sees this thing. Well, here they are looking at an obvious PR foot bullet. So here's David Weiss on Facebook. That whole thing about Josh is pointless. The girl lied and said she was 18. As soon as he found out, you mean after their 6-month relationship? He told her she could no longer talk. It was case closed. That's it. Oh, that's it. Okay, so David, what if the girl was 14? Actually, she was 14. What if the 14-year-old girl said, I'm 19, can you get me some cigarettes? And he did. And then Josh had a record. Would you say, oh, that's pointless, the girl lied? Now, this was the guy who was just on Alex Jones. And it looks to me like the cult has decided that if it has to, it will sacrifice a 14-year-old girl to preserve its own integrity. They have designated her the sacrificial scapegoat, rather than letting authentic intent be the one to leave. It's unbelievable. And I don't know if any of them will answer for this, because their answer for this thus far has been to blame the victim, shame the victim, and attack anyone who speaks out against them and says, maybe you ought to not do this. Maybe you ought to not set this as a precedent, as acceptable, as something you could stand by. Whatever happened to let he who is without sin cast the first stone?
Seems like I'm using that to my advantage because I have a lot of distrust with the state and how they handled the situation in Chicago to allow it to happen here in Minnesota. So,
I'll tell you what I'm disappointed in. I'm disappointed in that girl's mother.
yeah.
You know, as a mom, what are you doing? Reel that girl in. My gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Glad that I was able to help you do it. And I also appreciate Patricia for coming on and sort of, you know, being a sort of character witness for you and letting everybody know that she thinks you're a good person and she trusts you around her daughter. Never take a piss in public, you could catch a charge. That's true. You can get a sexual offense charge for peeing in public. I mean, that's just how it is. You could end up in the same place that Josh is because you peed on a street corner. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Again, the problem we have with this is they are defaming a 14-year-old, and they've done it publicly. This victim shaming by a group of Christian flat earthers has not gone unnoticed. They're scapegoating a 14-year-old girl, thinking to sacrifice her to preserve the integrity of their cult. There was an apparent attempt to distract everyone from this, and that's definitely not going to work. FECOR and IFAC and all those who publicly shamed the victim were attempting to exonerate Authentic Intent and to place the blame for the drama on the IPS. Okay, so here's a part where a 46-year-old woman and a 38-year-old man blamed the 14-year-old for being abused by the 38-year-old, who was then at that time 36.
What did she say in court about her lying about her age? Did she admit to doing that? Did she admit to deceiving you?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't anything that, I didn't sense it was anything that she was too concerned about.
Probably not. It sounds like she wasn't really concerned about much, except for doing whatever she wanted to do.
Right.
Did she ever apologize to you or to the court for what
No.
she did?
No.
What
Why
did,
apologize when you don't feel like you did anything wrong?
right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that would just admit guilt.
So that's, of course, a FECOR member and Authentic Intent ostensibly blaming the victim. Well, after this video was released, the first comment was made by Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, who said, quote, "I've been saying from the first second I heard that jackass IPS, he is the worst thing that has ever happened to Flat Earth." And my response is basically that apparently they are the worst things to have happened. And moreover, their side has not only stood by and endorsed this, but they've not answered for previous people that they have endorsed, like the guy who's in prison right now, Philip Stallings. They suddenly don't want to talk about it, and yet if you go to Celebrate Truth's channel, you can find where this Philip Stalling is still being endorsed by the channel, because the video, which has more than 500,000 hits on this documentary, is feeding people over to that guy's YouTube channel. Then, of course, we have this individual, and we saw a lot of this. Ted Sommer says, "If you make it to FEIC this year and the IPS ends up, I will make sure he apologizes to you personally." A lot of people were standing up in his defense, defending the indefensible, if you ask me. Now, here's another point. Robbie Davidson, who previously had Authentic Intent a speaker at his event, can no longer support him without being a massive hypocrite. And the reason why is this. After Logan Paul finished his mockumentary, Robbie Davidson went on ABC Nightline, and he put out this notion that Logan Paul should be getting sued for featuring a 14-year-old without having her parents' permission. So in his tweet, he said, "Looks like Logan Paul's surprised. Why? He put a 14-year-old girl in his movie without her parents' consent. Oops. Parents' lawsuits aren't pretty." Goes on here saying, he's too afraid to go in front of the news cameras. Explain, how can he get away with exploiting children without proper legal consent for his prank? He's breaking the law. What is YouTube doing about this? So I'm asking here, why are they blaming this other 14-year-old for what happened to her, but they're not blaming this 14-year-old flat earth girl for getting in front of the camera? How come they're not victim shaming her now? Huge hypocrisy.
So you go to court, this girl admits to deceiving you, admits to lying, the mom knows about it, so then it comes time to make a verdict on your case. So then what happens then?
So 4 of the 12 jurors completely withheld their questions that people had about, you know, people going into their live chats and spamming this, you know, article.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this kind of came about because, I'm putting on an event here in Greenville, South Carolina with Just Jack Flat Earth, and we invited Josh to be a part of it, to be a speaker there, to come and join us and to interact with the public and be a part of it because we have a lot of respect for him and for what he does. And so then that is when I started receiving questions or messages via Facebook about, is it, why would you have a pedophile at your event, or why would you have a convicted sex offender at an event where children are going to be around? And so because that's going on, even though maybe a lot of people didn't know about your past or what was going on, we want to be 100% transparent in this. Josh wants to be 100% transparent. We want to clear the air. We want everybody to know, the facts of what's going on, rather than, get their information through Chinese whispers, through the grapevine, where things can get distorted, blown out of proportion, twisted, that sort of thing. So that's why we're doing this stream. Because I can see people in the chat, they're like, wouldn't even know about this if it wasn't for this stream. And that's good. We would rather you hear about it this way than, through some other avenue where somebody could sort of, put a turn on it or make it seem something that it's not, and as people who are, consider themselves truthers, like Josh does, like I do myself, this is part of that. It's part of that is being honest about what's going on and, and putting that stuff forward and letting everybody know that we don't have anything to hide. We aren't malicious people. Josh isn't a malicious person. All we want to do is spread truth, talk about Flat Earth, let everybody know about the deception that's going on. And this is just part of that. This is just to let everybody know that, they're honest. You're an honest person. You're obviously an honest person. You're obviously putting yourself out there. Obviously, look at this. Not everybody has to go online and talk about something that they did, something that happened in their past that they aren't, it may not be the best situation. Most people don't ever have to do that.
And at least you can have an understanding that the 13, 14, and 15-year-olds that are out there in our public education are not always honest, that they're just like you, that they will lie to take advantage, to make themselves out to be better than what they are, or make themselves appear or be something that they're not.
So this is one of our mind maps where we had actually predicted that authentic intent would fall into this category. We predicted it several months ago based on his refusal to give us any information about Wes after we caught Wes with the material on his computer and wanted to file a report. Okay, here's what we found. We found a high incident of not only sex offenses and drug offenses, but a lot of apparent cops and actors. So police, actors, sex offenders, and felons associated with the leadership, quote unquote, in the bigger channels with the Flat Earth movement, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, actors, sex offenders, cops, and other assorted individuals with very, very unusual backgrounds, people who just came out of nowhere and became involved in this. People like Orphan Red, who pretends to be, at least on webcam, when she's entertaining clients, she pretends to be an orphan, which is a little girl with no parents, like a lost kid. So Orphan Red was Mark Sargent's first co-host, and she was an adult performer known as Orphan Blue, where she did what they call age play. That's kind of strange. We have a number of deep fakes and agents and plants all around, and these are people who got into some serious trouble, and they were offered something of a green card. You do some intelligence work, and in exchange, you will be given, a free get out of jail free card, more or less. That's kind of what it looks like when I look at these characters, this unlikely cast of characters that would all be associated together. Like, what could really bind them? Is it really this newfound religion, or is it something else? Everyone on the screen you're looking at is aware of one another. They all know one another. They've shared the stage with one another. They've shared. Actually, let's start with this one. So everyone you see on the screen is connected directly. This isn't guilt by association. This isn't loose associations. These are just facts. So, organizer of the conference at the top, he's one of his speakers on the left. And on his right, someone he did a documentary with. And then down below is a friend of Swift, a friend of Ditraw up here on the top left, a friend of Hori Sheet, who's down here, who is also a friend of everyone else here. The girl is just someone who is on a hangout with Wes. So what we're seeing here, and these three girls are on a hangout with Hori. And now Hori's show is one where he spends a lot of time just chatting with strangers, specifically young. He doesn't mind. He calls them fun size. And he doesn't mind drinking with these underage girls. Of course, it's cyber interaction, so he can drink in front of them. Well, Wes Stace was one of his big contributors, would watch his live streams at night. So it's like they're looking over his shoulder as he talks to these girls in their pajamas, twerks with them even, if he's drunk enough. And we've seen it. So that would be Hori. Now, all these people know each other, and I'm just saying, what are the odds that they would be bound together by some newfound religious belief or spirituality? Like, what's more likely? Could it be that their common convictions bind them? So this is what caused FECOR to send Karen B and Authentic Intent out to do damage control. I was messaged by Patricia Pearson on my Facebook page, and she told me to back off of Swift. So I said in a private message, Joshua Swift sexually abused a 14-year-old girl, admitted to police that he sought young partners. You're defending a rapist. You have a dark, evil soul. That was just my start. And she said, my fiance is 7 years older than me. I was young when we met. Doesn't make him a rapist or a pedo. Josh is a man that made a mistake by a trickster family. She targeted other men. Maybe you don't travel enough to know how people from Chicago talk. I've lived there. The girls are fast, and their mouths are faster. So I go on to say, does his parole officer know he's doing street activism involving minors? Because you cannot efface the central fact that a 35-year-old predator groomed and molested an 8th grader, and he's blaming her for it. She's 14, too young to consent. She said, everything you've said is circumstantial evidence from the state. I've been doing activism with him, and he is sincere. Digging up his past and trying to force your opinions is going to cause a loss of respect for your character. So somehow my character is on trial here. So I threw her some details. You do know they met 3 times in his bedroom. He recorded it, which is technically child porn production. The victim's sister told on him when he sent flowers to the house. He told the cops he can't relate to adult women. Would you defend personal friend of his, Wes Stace, as well, who had child porn on his computer? Do you know him? So we go back and forth. She wouldn't speak on Wes. So I was trying to discover, what's going on with this Flattoberfest. Is he still going to be on there? And so, trying to get this information from her, I said, tell him that the IPS wants him to confess live what he did and that he appealed the court's decision blaming the 14-year-old. If he does that, we'll back off. So this is the reason why he decided to do a live confession, clearing the air. It's because I said it's the only way we'll stop digging into it, is if he comes completely clean. Because he wasn't clean in the first place. He didn't tell us, after 2 years of our support, he didn't tell us that this was on his record. We wouldn't have supported him otherwise. So I needed him to come out clean and tell us if there's anything else that we've missed. So then here's where I kind of decided to fish a little bit. I said, is it true that Mark Sargent disinvited Swift from Flattoberfest? He didn't want to be associated with Logan Paul, so why would he want his name next to a guy who had encounters with a minor? And of course, I had not actually heard that Mark Sargent had told Swift to leave. That wasn't even a rumor. I made it up on the spot just to kind of fish. And her response was, from what I've seen from the correspondence between Swift and the community, Bob Knodel was the one keeping him from going to the conference. He decided not to go. But I've never met Mark Sargent, so I can't speak on his character. And so here it was revealed that Bob was going to make sure that Swift didn't go because obviously the IPS would have made some noise about it. And as a result of this getting out and Bob Knodel being outed as trying to do damage control, they, I believe, decided to double down and keep him on the bill. Now, her response to me when I sent her this image was, "You need Jesus." And as you're going to see, as we go through the comment section on their damage control video with Karen and Authentic on the confessional, it's the Christians who are throwing the stones at the 14-year-old girl. Looking at the clip where this is a hangout with a number of people who associated with Wes Stace. And during this video, Wes, who's this individual, I'll go ahead and put him on the screen so you can hear him for a second. This is him. Now, Wes is a friend of Mark Sargent. He had been, what happened is strange. His live stream had been hacked and somebody put porn on his screen in order to get him flagged. At least that's what he said. So he was showing this previous live stream where he had been shut down. And while he was trying to explain how it happened, meaning he was going through his emails to show who had access to that live stream, he shared his search history. So we're going to go through that right now.
Let me quickly check. I don't want to say something that I'm totally wrong about.
And here we go. So now we are looking at Wes Stace's bookmarks and recent searches. So right here you have chat, Netflix, Facebook, Walmart, MoneyCard, Minnesota Works, because he's in Minnesota, Google Hangouts, Instant Payday, Donate Plasma, Bioplasma Services in Springfield. Scroll down, Children in Cinema. And then Forced Sex Videos. Forced Sex Videos, page 2. Guess he didn't find what he was looking for. Models, Pictures, Teens, 12, 13, 14. Nude, free teen models. There's some other terms in here I don't necessarily want to read out loud. Young girls, models, tip list. Free, innocent, preteen. These are his searches. Then he takes a break and searches for knives, buck knives, and swords, and hair regrowing product called Regrow Hair Protocol.
They put it right in here.
So here he is, still not knowing that he's showing his...
well, that's the same dude.
Still not aware that he has shared his screen. And he tried to blame some individual by the name of Dread on this one. But during the process of, blaming someone else for this, yeah, he did show for about 30 seconds. This one here, right before he looked into the video teens 12, 13, 14, he was on You Now, Wes Stace and Flat Earth News Talk. And we found on You Now, he was interacting with young children, playing music, playing guitar, but up all night talking with young children. And he would also hang out with Hori Sheet on Hori Sheet's live streams, where Hori Sheet would be entertaining 13, 14-year-olds. We have quotes from Hori Sheet where he's saying, I'll flat smack a 12-year-old, what do I care? So he's drinking and live streaming at 3 in the morning talking to young teenage girls.
That's what I should have. What did I make? Well, what do you expect? I mean, think about it. If someone started saying that you were a child molester or a pedophile, it's like, especially when he starts naming other people with me, saying that, you know, with Mark Sargent, Patricia Shear, Darth, and, you know, David Weiss, that is. And it's like, this is going to damage, and it could be damaging. And I'm like, oh man, I was just freaking out, and I'm like, I'm just going to disappear. Fuck it.
But surely, if you're innocent, you're going to protest your innocence rather than take your channel down as they asked.
Yeah,
like I said,
allergic. Trust me, he realizes that that was the wrong move.
Yep, I know.
I trust me, I already kicked his ass on that one.
Yep.
Well, the funny thing is that the links, you've got your You Now channel in between other links on there as well. So it's like it looks pretty active to me. You know, was that your bookmark section or was that your history?
That's exactly what Wes was saying earlier. Bookmarks.
Yep.
Regardless, you've got your You Now right halfway down the page. So some are more recent than others. That's the way it looks.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. Well, like I said, I never go to my bookmarks except to click the ones that are at the top, you know, for like Facebook. And all the other ones that are below, I never even bothered looking at them. You know, because I bought this computer from some guy I don't even know, and I didn't even think about looking in where he was going. So who knows whether, and like I said, not to blame my son. I don't know if my son went, you know, put those bookmarks in. I have no idea. But he had ample opportunity for the whole summer to do whatever he wanted on that computer, because I was using my desktop at the time, and I gave him this here computer. Well, I didn't give it to him, but he got a hold of it, and he was using that.
When was he last on the computer?
Probably 2 years ago, maybe 3.
Okay. I rest my case.
So this is philipstallings.com. It's still an active site. His last video was Bible teaching on feminism, transvestites, and women in the military. He has a book on Amazon from the Bible Flat Earth series. Interviews with pilots, interviews with Kent Hovind. He was a attendee at the first Flat Earth International Conference. And he did a documentary called The Global Lie, which we'll look at now. Okay, so he founded the Biblical Flat Earth Society, which is not the same as the Flat Earth Society. They have a very large Facebook group, which they shut down just a few months ago to the public. I'd like to know who's on the membership roster. You can safely assume Robbie Davidson and Rob Skiba are on it. Probably Mark Sargent. Who knows who else? But like I said, they closed it down because Philip Stallings has since been arrested and charged with 56 accounts of exploiting a minor. And so if you search him up in the news, that's all over. Durham man charged with 56 counts of exploitation, 28 counts of second degree of a minor, and we'll go on. This was part of a DHS sting, and there were many others as well involved. We're still waiting for all of it to come to light, but this was back in June. Philip Stephen Stallings was arrested after a joint investigation by the Durham County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Officers allege Stallings, who has more than 6,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, downloaded media and involved creation of content with minors involved in these activities. $500,000 bail. The website describes him as a Reformed Christian apologist debating the flat earth issue from the standpoint of Scripture. I did a little digging into this individual, and it's no secret to the people around him that he's a creep and a perv and an abuser. And there are many women on the internet who have encountered him. In fact, if you do a search for Philip Stallings and Facebook or any social media, Philip Stallings sexual harassment, you'll find quite a lot. One of the things about him too is that he actually dropped out of seminary school. He was kicked out. So here's a blog, Christian lady that was apparently assaulted by him. A warning about a creep. Philip Stallings. I have evidence of his dangerous interactions with others. In case anyone thinks that Mr. Stallings of North Carolina is actually in seminary school, and here they have a link that shows he was actually kicked out of seminary school for abusing somebody in the school. There's a post about him, how perverts and sex abusers attempt to gain credibility and rise to positions of power within the church. He was expelled from seminary school in 2012. He was expelled. So he goes on to Facebook and he says he goes to Christian groups and he grooms Christian women and teen girls. So once he's in touch with them by email, he starts trying to get compromising material on them, say suggestive things, and he asks for inappropriate photos. The woman who wrote this says, "Heaven forbid that anybody ever let this guy be in contact with women or children in the church. We have plenty of examples of perverts in evangelical churches that molest their fellow church members." So there are a lot of women who are testifying that Stallings was engaging in perverted and rude and disgusting private messages, and then he was abusive to women who wouldn't engage in cyber sex or wouldn't give him their phone number. A warning about Philip Stallings, and these are back from 2013. Okay, so as early as 2013, there were warnings about him being a seminary school dropout and about how he was expelled for ethical violations and how many people in the church had complaints about him. People on, look at this here. Philip Stallings starts off with, "You're quite beautiful." "Oh, you're going to ignore me, stupid bitch." So which is it? In a 1 minute period, he goes from "you're quite beautiful" to "you're So he trolls for victims this way. So someone from the school said, "Note, this guy is not a student with TNARS. He was expelled for ethical violations." So he is falsely representing himself. A lot of selfies that he sends to people. I mean, look, this guy's record has been laid out there in the public since 2013. The messages to women are horrible. So basically, if they don't accept his advances, he turns into a stalker. Again, this is 2013, just giving you a little bit of a heads up so you know. It wasn't a secret what Philip Stallings was into. So here we are in 2016, and he's doing a documentary on the topic of flat Earth. And the documentary is produced by Celebrate Truth, as in Robbie Davidson, founder of the International Flat Earth Conferences. So I ask myself, doesn't Robbie Davidson know that the guy that he's doing a documentary with is such a horrible person to women and girls? And this was before Stallings' recent arrest. This arrest was just recently. A film by Robbie Davidson starring Rob Skiba, starring Philip Stallings. So if you scroll down, you can see who he endorses. Starring Rob Skiba, Robbie Davidson, Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. He endorses Russian Vids and Scrawny to Brawny. These people all know each other. So again, this individual, who we know to be a creep based on victim testimony, beyond just being a mere creep, is actually a hardcore child pornographer and child trafficker. The worst type of human being in the world. Durham man faces 50 charges for possessing child porn. This news went viral, and when it was put together with his Flat Earth involvement, put two and two together, how many women within Flat Earth have been directly affected by this guy? Have been hit on by him, have been abused by him, have been harassed in some way? Durham man faces 56 counts, and this was just a few months ago, and again, he did documentaries with Robbie Davidson and Rob Skiba. So what does that say about their discernment?
Hey guys, real quick. I got a flyer for you. Check it out.
No, I'm sorry, we can't.
I can't give them a flyer? Hey guys, check this out real quick. Space is fake. You're not on a spinning ball. They're gonna teach you, listen guys, they're gonna teach you you live on a spinning ball. That doesn't make it true. It's not real. The floor is not moving 1,000 miles an hour. Okay? Yo guys, let me give you a flyer real quick. Here. I love you. Come take a flyer. I'm gonna flashback them. Guys, you don't live on a ball. The earth is flat. I got flyers for you right here. You can check out my YouTube, okay? Some of them picked them up. Hey, give them to the teachers. Hey, you can verify everything on my flyer. Large bodies of water do not curve. Hey guys, you're not on a ball in space. The earth is flat. Large bodies of water do not curve. Okay? Large bodies of water do not curve. Research flat Earth. That's how you do it right there. Got them all right there.
And of course, this session of flat smacking children on the playground got Nathan Thompson arrested. So I'm going to warn you one more time. Do not ever go out on the streets and attempt to flat smack anyone. Now, if you can't help yourself and you just have to do it, You better not flat smack any children, or else you might end up like one of these people you see on screen. Now let's have a look at this here book. This here book's called The Earth Plane, written by Eric Dubay. A flat earth book for children. It seems Eric is also targeting children. What happens when these children want to find out who the author of this book is? Let's say these children grow up, they want to find out who the author of the book is. Oh, well, it's a man who likes to wear dresses, a man who likes to cross-dress as a woman, stuff his chest with fake boobs, and throw up devil horns while he's wearing pigtails. That's who wrote the book. Oh, and did I mention he happens to love Hitler? And he also promotes the NWO vegan death diet, which kills people. Do you really want your child reading a flat earth book by a cross-dressing vegan who loves Hitler? Most people wouldn't. Now fast forward to today, the present time. Take a look at Baby Truther Show number 30. They did this just to spite me. What you're looking at on the screen was done deliberately because I called them out as creating a PEDO vibe. And so to spite me, Jaron thinks it's funny to have all of his crew, of course, looking like babies. And then I guess that's Kelsey, who's bending over right there, showing her ass. Oh, and if you look down, Kelsey has stuffed her panties with some sort of banana or something to make it look like a penis sticking out of her panties and bulging out. Again, why would they do this? Now, I have my suspicions about Kelsey being a transformer, but clearly she stuffed her panties with something. I don't think for a second that is actually her real penis. If she is a transformer, then I don't think she has a penis. I think her penis has been turned inside out and mangled. If she used to have one, I think she's been operated upon. I can't prove that. That's just my thoughts. But here you have Kelsey with what appears to be something she stuffed in her panties. Now ask yourself, just looking at this picture with the butt bent over and Kelsey stuffing her panties and the babies, what type of people would this draw in? I think this would draw in, let's say, teens, maybe children, maybe some child predators. Now, whenever I confront Jaron about this, he acts as if he has no idea what I'm talking about, and then he doubles down and does it twice as hard just to spite me. When you catch the devil red-handed, sometimes they'll come right out and say, yes, I am the devil, and yes, this is what I'm doing. And if everyone's so stupid that they aren't going to do anything about it, then I'm just going to continue doing it. And those who fall for this deception, they deserve it. That's the way Jaron feels. Everyone that he's deceiving, everyone that he's getting to fall into this trap, he thinks they deserve it. He gets off on this evil shit. Nobody in their right mind who consider themselves a truther would ever participate in an abomination of a show like this. I watched this Baby Truther stream number 30. It's not quite as bad as number 29, but it's almost as bad. They don't make fun of a woman who's getting beaten this time, but they do make a lot of weird references to children and a lot of weird references altogether, and they stuck me in their music intro. They think it's funny to include me in their pedo vibes. You can try and include me in your graphics all you want, but I have not done anything like what you've done. In fact, that's exactly why I'm exposing you scumbags. Jaron, deep inside the rabbit's butthole, you guys better run. Because right now I have deep inside the rabbit's butthole David Weiss sticking up for a convicted grapist who graped a 14-year-old girl. We have proof of David supporting and sticking up for a convicted rapist. Not only that, victim shaming the victim. You shame the victim, David? That was a bad move. Now you're going to have to explain to everybody why you did that. Jaron, why are you hanging out with somebody like David Weiss? Why are you guys promoting a tracking app? Seems to me you're keeping track of your cult members. Why are you guys promoting a tracking app which data mines people and spies on people? Seems like a great way to keep track of your cult, I would say. So you're spying and data mining your cult members. This app that he has people download, it's not the first time a flat earther came out with an app. Patty Steer and Mark Sargent also had an app a couple years back. So this is not the first time. This is just a new upgraded version. So David Weiss's app is basically just another data mining tracking app. And it's not the first one. Patty and Mark were peddling a tracking app just before this one a few years ago. So just because Patty and Mark are no longer as active as they used to be, doesn't mean they're not still pulling the same old shit. Right now they need new cult members. And so deep inside the rabbit's butthole, David Weiss and Jaron and Kelsey Kerwin and Rose are basically Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes 2.0. Flat Earth Society 2.0. It's the same disinformation and the same cast of shill characters. They just been reshuffled. So instead of Mark and Patty with Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, now you have the Baby Truther Show. You have the Flat Earth dating game. Now you even have Kelsey Kerwin saying that she's going to start her own dating app, a Flat Earth dating app. You also have Kelsey Kerwin saying she wants to start a show called Flat Earth and Other Hot Pizzas. So basically, folks, what you have here is just another reboot. Flat Earth cult needs new members. The cult is wearing thin. They've lost quite a few members over the years, so they need more innocent women and children to join the cult. That's what they prefer. Vulnerable, innocent women and children. That's what they want in the cult. If you look at the attendance to the first Flat Earth International Conference, it was a sellout, and Robbie Davidson, the person who ran the event, made a lot of money. All the people involved at the top of that first Flat Earth Conference made a lot of money. The second Flat Earth Conference didn't draw as many people. By the third and the fourth Flat Earth Conference, they were barely able to even draw 100 people. Since then, Robbie Davidson has split the scene. He's gone. So, I told everybody this gargoyle of a human being who you can look at and tell is an evil, no good piece of shit just by looking at him, that he was never a real flat earther. I told you guys that. I didn't go to any of these conferences. I declined them. This Robbie character invited me, but I declined. I knew he wasn't a real flat earther. I knew he was a slime bucket, a scuzzball. I knew it. And that's why when the last Flat Earth Conference that he produced, when it flopped and less than 100 people showed up, he walked away. He doesn't continue making truther content. He doesn't make Flat Earth content. The minute the money went dry, he walked away. So if you're one of those people who maybe paid $100 for a ticket, $200 for a ticket to one of those first conferences, well, they can't fill a conference hall anymore. Nobody wants to go to conferences. They don't have enough cult members to fill a conference anymore. So they need new cult members. They need new cult members, and this is exactly how they get them. What you're looking at on the screen is exactly how they're going to draw in new vulnerable cult members. And what do they want? They want women and children. It's obvious what's going on, and I'm pretty sure I just gave you more than enough proof. And if you want to do any sort of background investigation of your own, feel free to do so. I'm pretty sure you will come to the same conclusion I have. In fact, you'll probably find even more. So if you dig beneath this surface, expect to find more of this stuff and expect to be completely uncomfortable. Now, I have more information that I will be bringing out, but I don't want to tip my hat and give away all my information at this point. So I think we'll go ahead and stop here. But there are more names. There are more people I am going to get to. This is just step one, draining the swamp. And unlike your fake politicians, this draining of the swamp is for real. This has been a production from Jake the Asshole, Flat Earth Asshole, and the Infinite Plane Society. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.